So the newest Spider-Man movie is out, and I guess the question is whether or not it's really good or it's just okay. Well, I'm just gonna say it. I'm thinking that the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day, was fantastic. I absolutely adored Spider-Man Brand New Day. I thought that movie was really, really good. I'm gonna even go so far as to say that I think Brand New Day is better than Homecoming. It's better than No Way Home, and it's better than Far From Home. Some might not agree with No Way Home. I think that Brand New Day is way better than all those films together. Like genuinely, like this is the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU I can really say is fantastic. Not that those other movies are bad. I love Homecoming. I thought Far From Home was decent, and I think that No Way Home was just kind of fan service to the movie. Not that that was a bad thing. I get it. That was the whole marketing of that movie, and I do think it's an enjoyable film. But Spider-Man Brand New Day really does feel like the first great, if not amazing, Spider-Man movie in the MCU. And I even go so far as to say that this is just one of the best Spider-Man movies, period. Like at least top five. Like I will put this next to Spider-Man 2 and the original Spider-Man movie. I really liked Brand New Day. It was fantastic. And there's a lot of reasons why I really liked it, with just some minor hiccups here and there, but before I even get into that, I want to transition to the good things about the movie, and then towards the end, we'll talk about the bad things. So let's just transition to what works with this film. All right, so some of the first positives I can think of for Spider-Man Brand New Day is the story. I really, really enjoyed the story. Now, I'm not going to give away too much what it's about. All I will say that it involves a mystery going around in this movie where someone is attacking certain facilities and Spider-Man just kind of has to figure out who's doing this and why. And I thought it was a good story. But what also is interesting about this is that while Spider-Man is doing all this, he's also going through some kind of mutation with his DNA where his his he's becoming more spider-like. That's all I really want to say without it. So he's kind of tackling with that, but also just tackling with the fact that I was about to say Mary Jane, Michelle Jones and Ned don't remember him, so he is also struggling with that, just trying to you know move on with his life, but also just can't because he's attached to those people so much, which makes sense. So really, it's a really good movie with its story, in my opinion. Like I really enjoy the story. We finally get to see Peter Parker down in the dumps. He is really struggling a lot in this movie, and you can just tell by watching the film that he is just not having the best time of his life. And I really like that because the thing about Spider-Man, at least in the other films, is that I feel like Spider-Man had it good. It wasn't things weren't going too bad for him. He didn't feel like he was too much under down of his luck. I think this is the first time in the MCU where he really does feel like the underdog a lot in his own movie. He doesn't have a lot of help from anyone. He really is on his own. And I just really appreciate it. It felt like a Spider-Man story. So it made me root for him even more because I know things were going really bad for him in this film. And I think the movie does a good job of making us root for Peter. And Tom Holland is fantastic in the movie. I think that this is probably, maybe, maybe his best performance as Peter Parker. I really enjoyed. Those first three films, sure they did feel like an origin for Spider-Man, but this feels like his first real adventure on his own. Like this is the first real Spider-Man movie where we finally get to see Spider-Man be the Spider-Man we want and we love from the books, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the story was great. I'm not gonna go too in depth on detail because I don't want to spoil anything. Just know that the story is really good, and I really enjoy the main plot. Like I said, Tom Holland is great in the role. I love the costume he has in this movie. I think it's a little bit different from the one we saw in the ending of Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm pretty sure this one is a little bit darker. I'm not too sure, but bottom line is the costume looks awesome. I really enjoy it. I think the fight scenes were fantastic, which is great because they got Destin Daniel Cretton, who also directed Shang-Chi, to make this movie. And I just gotta say, I am very happy they got him for this movie. He is a great successor to John Watts. And no offense to John Watts, but I definitely prefer what Destin did with Spider-Man than what John Watts did. The action scenes are just spectacular. There's too many to count, but there's a lot of really good action scenes. If I had to pick some of my favorites, I'm not gonna get too knee deep in spoilers, but I really like the final fight in the prison yard with the hand. There in the movie, they show it in the trailer. That's not really a spoiler. I thought that fight scene in general was fantastic. I love the fight between him and Hulk. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, the fight scenes are great in my opinion. And another thing I love is just the camaraderie between Spider-Man and Punisher. I think that was just really well done. You can tell that Punisher really likes Spider-Man because he acts very differently in this than he does in his other specials and TV show. He's a bit more chill. Like, don't go into this movie expecting Punisher to be super serious. Like he is still, but he's not as dark as he is in like some of his other projects. And we get to see a little bit more of his lighter side in this movie. And I actually like that personally. And I chalk that up to being the fact that he's just with Spider-Man and he respects Spider-Man a lot. And I just think Spider-Man just brings out the more softer side of Frank a little bit. Like he respects him a lot and he likes him a lot. And I think their camaraderie that they have throughout the film was just great. I'm very happy to see Punisher interact with Spider-Man, and I love the interaction between both of them. John Berthel is still great as Punisher, and again, I really enjoy that we get to see a different side of him in this movie. And I'm hoping that we actually see these two interact more in the future. We'll see, but I really liked it, and personally, I want more. I was a little bummed out that Daredevil wasn't going to be in this, but just having Punisher as, Spider-Man's co-worker, because that's kind of what they do in these movies. They have Spider-Man team up with someone. I think he was a great choice. I loved him in this movie. He was fantastic. Another thing I liked is the fact that they brought back Savage Hulk. Again, not a spoiler. That's in the trailers. I really enjoyed that. I thought the way they portrayed Savage Hulk was awesome. I freaking loved it. And the fight scene between him and Spider Man was great. I also liked this little interaction they had because, again, everybody forgot who Peter is. And I'm not going to say too much, but I feel like Hulk still remembers who Peter is, which is weird because I've never seen them interact that much in the movies. But I'm guessing they've interacted outside of the films. Either way, nice little touch because that's from the comics where everyone forgets who Peter is. Hulk is the only one who remembers who Spider-Man actually is. Just a nice little touch that I really enjoy. And that is another thing I like. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. They're probably gonna be pointing at the screen a lot, saying, "Ooh, look at that! Who's that? Oh, I know that person." Like there's some stuff in this movie for the fans to, cherry pick and see and go, "Wow." Another thing I like is just the world building. I think the world building of the movie is great. The Spider-Man's already very much established. There's a decent amount of villains in this. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I liked who I saw. Um, I just wish, I'll talk about it in my negatives. But one of the things I loved is the fact that they brought back Scorpion. I thought he was great in the movie. It's nice to see Michael Mando back as the character. I've been wanting to see him since Homecoming, ever since they teased him all those years ago. And I honestly thought he was going to be the villain for Far From Home, but he wasn't. So just happy to finally see him in a Spider-Man movie, and he is all suited up. I think he is utilized very well. I still wish he was the main villain. Unfortunately, he is not. He's more of a side villain, but I still thought that it was just cool nonetheless to see him. Like, beggars can't be choosers. At least Scorpion is in it, and I really, really like that. Another thing I can give this movie props is the stunt work. A lot of this stuff, from my knowledge, was practical, maybe with a little bit CGI, but it is mostly practical stunts. It's not like the green screen stuff they had in the previous movies, especially in No Way Home. And I just appreciate that, man. I like it when something is actually there and they're actually performing the stunts. Again, I'm not saying there's no CGI used at all. I'm pretty sure there is, but it's not as noticeable. And I just love that. I really appreciate the fact that they did that. It makes the scenes feel more epic, in my opinion, and just feel like that's actually happening. It's just awesome to see. I love it. But the stunt work is great, and it makes sense because the people behind the stunt work are actually the team that works on the Jackie Chan movies. I believe the Jackie Chan stunt team. Yeah, I believe Destin Daniel Cretton got them to work on this, just like he got them to work on Shang-Chi. So that explains why the fight scenes are awesome, but that also explains why the stunt work is amazing. So yeah, the stunt work is peak. Another thing I love is the cinematography. The cinematography of this movie is really good. That's something that I feel like the previous films didn't really have that much. There wasn't a lot of good cinematography. No offense to the previous cinematographer, John Watts. I just feel like the cinematography in this movie was just a lot better in my opinion, and I really, really liked it. It was just really good. There was a lot of really nice shots in this movie. Some of them they even show in the trailer. So this is a pretty movie to look at, and there's some cool shots, and I really like it. The soundtrack is fantastic. I think it's on par with the previous movies as well. So I love that. I think the main villain, at least one of the main villains, is really good. I'm not going to say who this main villain is. All I will say is that Sadie Sink plays this main villain, and I thought she was great. I really enjoyed her in this movie. She's a very sympathetic main villain. She has good motivations. You could make an argument that she could have explained to Spider-Man some of the stuff that was happening. I know that's a complaint I'm seeing a lot, but I take it as she was just very angry with the world. Again, I don't want to give away too much why she is, but just know that Sadie Sink was a great villain. I loved her. Do I kind of wish they used an actual Spider-Man villain? Yes. I'm not going to give away her identity because I know that's part of the marketing, whereas this big secret on who she is. Just know that Sadie Sink was great. I loved her in the movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. That leads me to my next positive. What they introduced in this movie for the next MCU film, it is something big. I'm not going to say what it is, but it has me excited to see more of this certain new aspect of the MCU, this new lore that they added, and I'm excited to see how that goes forward in the future. I'm sorry if I'm tiptoeing around it. I just think this is a really big thing for the MCU, and I'm keeping it as spoiler free as possible because I want everyone to experience that on their own. Like when I found out who Sadie Sink actually was, which if you're on the know, like you probably guessed who she is, you probably guessed who she's actually playing. But just know that when I found out she was actually playing this particular character, my jaw dropped, even though I knew. But I was still happy to see it. So yeah, she's fantastic in the movie, and I love the new lore they add to the MCU, and I'm looking forward to see how much they expand on that in the next movie or wherever movie she shows up next. But yeah, man, what are some other good things? I think that might be it. Honestly, the story is great. The action scenes are really good. The performances are fantastic. Another thing I like is that I actually do like that. Ah, I don't think I can say this, but I kind of like that. You know, MJ and Spider Man don't really get back together. They really don't, and I think that's a good. I think that's a good thing. It's a good way to have the character move forward. I'm not saying they'll never get back together. I'm sure sometime in the future they will, but I like that. It's different, and it gives time for maybe Spider Man to explore some more things on his own. That's just a little minor spoiler. I don't think it's a huge thing, but I really like that personally. Some other things I liked. Ooh, I'm having a hard time thinking what else I like. I think I just listed all the things I really like. Like I said, good cinematography, great action scenes, fantastic acting, great chemistry or camaraderie between Spider-Man and Punisher. I thought that was great. The return of Savage Hulk, like I said earlier, was fantastic. I really, really appreciate that. And also, just in general, there's a lot of really good emotional moments. Like it actually got me a little bit teary-eyed from time to time. Like there's some good emotional moments in this movie, and it's really well done. And I think the journey that Spider-Man goes through in this film was fantastic, which is another thing I like. I like that Peter's focusing more on being Spider-Man than he is being Peter Parker. It kind of reminded me of the Batman a little bit. So I noticed that they took some cues from that, and I found that interesting. And I like that throughout this movie, Peter learns that he is both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He can't just focus on one and ignore the other. I think by the end of the movie, he does realize that, and I just really appreciated that. And the ending in general was just really cool. Like it shows you how much the people of New York really do appreciate Spider-Man. You know, I know sometimes they don't really show it, especially in this movie. Like I said, he is a bit on a downer note. He in the beginning he is going through some stuff, but by the end it shows you the effect that Spider-Man has on people, and it's a positive effect, and the people show it back to him. And I thought that was wonderful. I'm not gonna give too much from that, but I just know that the journey he goes through was fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, I don't really got much else when it comes to positives. I think I honestly listed off all the things I really enjoyed. The story was great. Like I said, the fight scenes were fantastic. The cinematography is great. The score is great. One of the main villains is really good. I like one of the side villains as well. But yeah, and also I just kind of like where the movie ends. It ends on a really nice note, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. And again, I also love that the story of this movie is grounded. You know, it is a very grounded in the sense that it's street level. I'm so happy because one of the things about the previous films is that they went more cosmic, especially No Way Home, which was fine. But I'm glad for this movie they stuck to their guns and made it street level storytelling, which is fantastic. Apparently, that was a big struggle they were having with Sony. They wanted to make this more grand scale, and I think that would have been a mistake. So I'm glad that Holland and Kevin and just Marvel in general stuck to their guns and told them we're not doing that. We're doing a grounded story level or a street level story level, or a street level story and people are gonna love it. And I loved it, and I think people are really enjoying it. So yeah, glad they stuck to their guns with that. I think making this a more multi-dimensional movie would have been a humongous mistake. I also just love that Spider-Man really does feel like his own man in this movie. Like I'm not saying he doesn't have any help in this film, he does, but it's not as much as the previous movies where a lot of people helped him out a lot, and really didn't feel like his own movie for a lot of the times because he was just getting so much help. You know, like that common complaint, Iron Man Jr. No, this is Spider Man. He's not Iron Man Jr. He is Spider Man. Most of the gadgets he makes are on his own. He does a lot of stuff on his own. A lot of the problem solving he does is on his own. A lot of the stuff in this film that gets resolved is by him with a little bit of help from Punisher, but not too much. But he does a lot of these things on his own. He is his own man, and I just really appreciated that. So yeah, that's all I got for positives. So when it comes to negatives, let's just transition into that. I only really have a couple of negatives, which isn't too much. All right, so when it comes to negatives that I have for Spider-Man Brand New Day, it's honestly not a lot. The only negatives I have is that they teased a lot of villains in the trailers. That was something I was a little worried about because I was kind of curious how they're going to tackle that, but still curious to see how they did it. And I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. A lot of these villains aren't in it that much. They are really just there just for world building. And while I can appreciate that, I do think it kind of sucks that these villains barely had any screen time. I'm not gonna say some of them. That's all I'll say. I don't even want to say anymore. Though. Just know that a lot of these villains that were teased in the trailers aren't in it that much, and I think that's disappointing. In my opinion, that really sucks. I would have liked to see more of them. But unfortunately, they just were not in it that much. They really were just there just for world building, and I thought that sucked. But another complaint I have is the secondary villain. I don't like him. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought he was bland. I didn't think he was very interesting. He could have been replaced with an actual Spider-Man villain because I'm pretty sure this character is original to the MCU. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is from the comics. If he is, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure he's not. And I just did not find him interesting. I thought his motivations were they were bland, and he himself was just bland. There wasn't a lot of depth to him. I definitely think the other villain, who was played by Sadie Sink, was much more interesting than him. Way more interesting. And it just kind of sucks that this movie is bogged down a little bit by a mediocre secondary villain. So that sucks. And I guess another thing is, some some questions I have specifically on how Peter's making money, because they don't really explain that. Because, like I said, he is down on his luck, but they don't really show how he's getting by. And I was kind of curious about that, but they don't really talk about it. So I don't know. Maybe they did. I didn't really notice that personally. That is just a nitpick, though. That's not really a humongous complaint, in my opinion. That was just something I was curious about. How is he keeping his apartment? How is he paying his bills? If he's mostly Spider-Man all the time. I don't know. I feel like that's something they should have explained a little bit more of. But that might be the only complaints I have, honestly. just a very weak secondary villain, and some, world stuff that I feel like needed some explaining. So yeah, but besides that, I still think this is a really, really good movie, honestly. I really enjoyed Spider-Man Brand New Day. I thought it was fantastic. So I'm sorry if I got a little bit rambly on my positives, and I'm sorry if I got a little bit rambly on my negatives. Like I said, the only complaints I had that a lot of the villains I wanted to see didn't get that much screen time, and the main villain that they did use was just uninteresting. Like I said, I feel like they could have used an actual Spider-Man villain, and that sucks. It sucks. So yeah, but hey, at least the secondary villain was awesome. Or at least the other villain was awesome. It's just too bad that one of the villains was just not that interesting, in my opinion. So, oh yeah, and the mystery behind it too, on whether we should trust this person or not. Not a really a big mystery. I think you can tell you shouldn't trust this person from the get go. So, not a real mystery on that. He seemed shady from the start. So there you go. I guess that's another minor complaint I have is that there's an obvious villain in the movie. So not only is he obvious, but he's also just uninteresting. I'm not gonna say who it is because I feel like that would be spoilers, but that's really all I have for complaints. I think for the most part, this movie was really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think it is the best of the Holland movies, and I'm looking forward to seeing how much more they expand with this character in the next two films. Hopefully, they actually choose an actual Spider-Man villain as the main villain instead of who they did choose for one of the villains for this movie. But overall, if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it 4.5 stars. It would have been a five if they stuck the landing with certain things, specifically that other main villain, and that they had given more screen time to some other villains as well, and also just explain a little bit on how Peter is making money to, pay for his bills and groceries, because I don't think they ever explained that, from what I remember. But besides that, this was a great movie. Please go check it out. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody is, but it gets a strong recommendation from me. It's nice to see that this movie turned out really well because again, the last superhero movie I saw wasn't that great, but this one was, and I'm happy to come out of it enjoying it a lot. So yeah, that's it for me.